Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching from. Thank you for tuning in today. It's been a bit of a crazy morning, not gonna lie. Less prepared for today's show than normal. So I broke the first cardinal rule of broadcasting and just wolfed down a breakfast sandwich about 15 minutes ago. So we'll see how that plays out. For those of you who don't know, and if you're ever going to do a video or you're ever doing an interview or have a big meeting planned up where you're presenting, you need to speak, don't eat or drink huge amounts about 20 minutes to half an hour before you speak because it sits on your diaphragm and you'll be perpetually out of breath. So like I said, we'll see how we go today. Yeah, we've got some fun topics planned. So we're going to do our usual latest travel news, as well as we've got some travel things to definitely do not say or do when it comes to travel. And I kind of alluded to one of them last week, but we'll go into those with a little bit more detail and have some fun with it today. And of course, there's always random topics. We love random topics here, don't we? Just anytime we're talking about travel, it's all good. So let's go ahead and jump in. What are we at? 10:02. Okay. Before I even get started, just want to say if you enjoy the show, please consider giving it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. And if you hit that, the alarm bell, then what it will do is it'll notify you whenever I go live or whenever there's a new video that comes out. So just one more way for you to not miss out on anything. And thank you for your support with the channel. We are over 5,000 subscribers now. I think we're at 5,050. So yeah, it's we're growing and I'm really enjoying it, enjoying making videos and talking about travel. So over to travel news. So Tropical Storm Ernesto, it did hit Puerto Rico over the evening. And apparently there's now hundreds of thousands of people without power. So I'm not quite sure how bad the destruction was, but it is now heading towards the USA. So who knows if it's going to grow or dissipate. Usually when the hurricanes are over the water, they tend to grow, they build on the energy. Whereas once they're over land, then the different, the winds and stuff like that, and the air masses tend to cause it to dissipate. So, fingers crossed on that one. And to all my friends who live in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, stay safe. More epidemic drama. I don't know if this is the right way to pronounce this, but there's a new virus. I don't know if it's a virus, but it's yeah, I guess so. It's called Oropuche, Oropouche. It's on the move, similar to dengue fever, but according to the European CDC, on the positive side, prognosis for recovery is good and fatal outcomes are rare, but there is some concern because it's spreading. It has spread. There's been cases of it in Italy, Spain, and Cuba. So we're likely to start seeing people with cases of it in Canada and the US. The bad news is it can be very, very serious. And if you've got any kind of dengue fever type symptoms, if you've been to any of these tropical destinations, mostly it's like in South America and Africa. And if you've been to any of those areas and you're experiencing any symptoms, really, you should be going to your doctor and getting it checked out. Because although it's only spread by small flies or mosquito bites, so it's not person-to-person transmission, as I understand it, but I'm not an expert. But it can be, you can get it through bugs. So of course, mosquito repellent, always a good idea. And even if you're going to the Caribbean or Mexico, I mean, the right conditions for those mosquitoes to live. So, definitely want to protect yourself. If you get it, like I said, according to the European CDC, there is a very, very low mortality rate. The good news is if you do get it, you're basically immune for life, which is good because there isn't a vaccine for it. But I just saw this in the news, excuse me, yesterday, and it was a big headline, and I thought, oh, here we go again. And as soon as I read that it's actually got a really low fatality rate, it's like, well, okay, so is this a headline story or is this just a slow news day? Because these things happen. So we've got a story for Canadians. Freedom Mobile has just done it again. They've lowered their prices again. If you are not happy with your cell phone provider, please, if you're Canadian, consider Freedom Mobile. I actually have a referral code. I'm not even going to bother using it, but they have a new plan, gives you talk, text, and data for Canada, US, and Mexico, and it's just $29 a month. $29. And then for $16 more, you can actually include 92 other countries. So if you're doing a Caribbean cruise, if you are planning on going to Europe, if you're planning on, traveling throughout the, South America, it covers a lot of countries. So it's definitely worth taking a look at. And for me, like, I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of you Americans who are watching, and thank you for indulging me in the story, but it's been for so long, like since as long as we've had cell phones here in Canada, we've been getting screwed with our plans. So to have a plan that is not over $100 a month, it includes not only the US, but also Mexico. To me, that is a headline story for sure. And also an interesting one, moving on, another interesting story that I just read is about artificial intelligence. We talked a little bit about that last week and whether or not it would replace travel agents. And if you haven't watched my latest video where I did a tour downtown, I asked ChatGPT to plan a day trip to downtown Vancouver and find me some places to grab a snack, find me some zero cost places to, like, tourist attractions to go and check out. What can I say? It was another 2024 adventure. Did it go smoothly? No, of course not. But it was interesting. Sorry, I've got my thing covered up here. Oh, good morning, Roxanne. How are you? And I don't know what I told you, but I did mention last week that I'm actually heading back to Hyatt Vivid. I'm booked in October. A surprise trip came up. Wasn't in my plan for this year, but the opportunity came up, and I am all over it. So yeah, going back to the Hyatt Vivid. Excited about that. Hello, Tammy. How are you? Tammy's joining us from the, what do you call it, Georgia Strait, I guess. She is on the ferry on her way to the mainland. And I'm sure she's got some beautiful views. It's a nice sunny day out there. So thanks for tuning in. So this article about artificial intelligence, and to my question that I asked you earlier, would you be comfortable flying in a large commercial aircraft with just one pilot? Watching whales. Oh, awesome. Okay, so here's a pro tip, folks. If you come to Vancouver for an Alaska cruise, plan to come at least a few days early. There's about 1 million things to see and do in the greater Vancouver area. And of course, a trip to Vancouver Island is also an amazing idea because it's beautiful. There's totally history. There's lots of history. Lots of really interesting things to see and do over there. You can ride on BC ferries to get over there, and it's reasonably inexpensive to take the ferry. I think it's $20 per person each way, maybe a little bit more. And like Tammy's saying, you can see whales while you're on this cruise ferry. No one's going to say cruise ship, but while you're on the ferry. So that's a pretty cool experience. So definitely check that out. But yeah, would you fly in a large commercial aircraft with only one pilot? I mean, standards are even on smaller planes. I don't remember, out of all the places that I've flown, even in Africa and the Caribbean, when you're talking like the aisle is like 1 and 1, like there's one row on one side with one seat, and this side has a row of one seat. But those planes still had 2 pilots, or at least 2 flight crew. Would you do it? I don't know. So this is what AI is saying, is that with advancements in the AI and airplane technology, it could mean that airlines actually start to consider this. So I don't know. What do you think? Would you be comfortable with that or not? I'm not sure. I think I would be inclined to say no. But I mean, what the heck? Like, if they've built the technology up so much, then I mean, I certainly trust all the advancements that they've made to help the planes land and stuff like that. So, you know. Oh, and the other thing is, and I just didn't have enough time to fully research it, but oh, hello, Irita. How are you today? Thanks for tuning in. The other thing, and let me know if you've heard about this before. I know the concept. They're called error fares. And what it is when the airlines put their prices into the system, sometimes mistakes are made. I mean, I've seen packages, air and hotel packages, for $1 before, and it was a huge mistake. I was literally on the phone within seconds to advise my my sales rep and the airline. Yeah, it was a great opportunity, and I mean, was I tempted? Absolutely. But it was also a resort chain that it was one of the Hyatt properties. I forget which one, but it was a Hyatt Ziva, and in out of loyalty to them, and of course concerned about the lack of revenue, because look, great that you can get a deal, but if you're getting a deal, they're gonna have to make up that revenue somewhere else, right? So, knowing that that was gonna happen, it was like, boop, better let somebody know. But yeah, so apparently what they're talking about with AI is that they can use AI to monitor the system. So if they come across like a flight, first class flight from Japan to Vancouver that's supposed to be $16,000 and it's on for 675, like, hello, would you not take advantage? I mean, again, take advantage of it, but if you're the lucky one, great. But if you're not, then how many other people are going to be subsidizing that cost in future? I mean, if you have 100 people who do that, that's 150. Is that right? 150,000. I suck at math so bad. It's a lot of money that the airline's going to have to recoup. So yeah, it's got impacts. Bojangles is saying not comfortable at all. Anything can happen. Yeah, anything could definitely. And I mean, here's the thing. Are you then saying, because the reason they have 2, or at least a co-pilot, is so that there's a built-in redundancy. Like, if something happens to one of them, then and we've seen accidents where it's happened to both of them, where there's a carbon monoxide situation, the oxygen rates drop too low, and both of the pilots, they're out. But that's the whole reason why they have 2, is that if something happens to one, then you've got another one as backup. So if you only have one, then are you saying the backup is the computer? Like, I'm not really, I wouldn't say I'm comfortable flying with one pilot. I'm definitely not comfortable flying with no pilots. I mean, what was the show? The Seventh Day or whatever, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, filmed in Vancouver, by the way, where they had cars that were self-piloted. And I know that Teslas can do that, and it's scary as anything. But, and not even getting into the topic of drivers, but it's scary to think about AI and what it could do, because we've I mean, that's a classic Hollywood theme, right? Everybody starts using AI, and then AI goes wonky, and we're all sitting ducks, right? So, yeah. But anyways, apparently, getting back to these airfares, apparently, oh, I should even change this. Hold on a second. There. That's what we're talking about. And we're almost done. Yeah, apparently there are websites or maybe even apps that will help you find airfares, or at least alert you when one comes up. So, fundamentally, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I mean, it's great if you can take advantage of it, but don't know. I'm just curious if you've ever heard of this before, that there's websites and stuff like that that will help you find these things, and if you even knew about airfares in the past. I mean, certainly we all know that people and computers make mistakes, but yeah, let me know. Okay, we're gonna move on to main theme of the day, which is don't say or do this, and we've got quite a few different examples of this. So the example I gave last week, I just want to tighten this up a little bit. My notes are digital. So the example I gave last week was actually one of the sales reps. I won't say which hotel brand it was, but he was flying in for whatever reason. He had done a one-way flight, and I'm going to actually be doing the same thing when I fly to Mexico in October. I've booked a one-way flight to Mexico, and then I've booked a one-way flight from Mexico to LA, because that's where I'm taking a cruise from after my week in Mexico. They're on two different airlines. And then after that, I'm booked on a third airline from LA back to Vancouver. One of the conditions of most countries is that you have to have an onward ticket or proof of onward travel. So, for example, if I was flying to LA and I only had a one-way flight, but the cruise was doing a repositioning from LA up to Vancouver, then it would show my return trip to Canada. So you always want to have your documentation. For whatever reason, maybe he was tired, maybe he was just in a mood, maybe the agent was being, power trippy. They asked why he had only booked a one-way trip. And he basically said, like, what does it matter? What's the difference? And that didn't go well. So as ever, of course, you want to be courteous and calm, take a breath, and just answer the questions, basically. And so, yeah, that led to a bit of challenge and delays, issues for him, but it could have been avoided if he had just simply answered the question. And of course, you also want to have proof of this. I travel with all manner of cables and batteries, portable batteries for my phone. So for me, I don't worry about just keeping everything digital, keep it on my phone. But if you're not that type of person, just print it out, have your itinerary, have your confirmations, and then if needs be, you can show. So the next one I have is to basically don't travel without sufficient funds. Always carry a credit card for emergencies. And I know there's people out there who will say, oh, you don't need a credit card for travel. Well, you do. You do. Most hotels will require you to use one when you check in for incidentals. And this may be a subjective thing. I rarely get asked for a credit card to put a security hold. But I know other people who always get asked. And so, like I said, it might be somewhat subjective. So if you're one of the people who doesn't get asked this, consider yourself lucky. But also, if there's an accident or something, if you trip off the sidewalk or something happens and you require medical attention, a lot of times the hospitals will require you to pay up front. You might have insurance which will reimburse you, but you might be required to pay up front to cover the costs for the medical services. Oh, wow. Okay. So Jagger's asking, hi, thanks for tuning in, by the way. What credit card do you recommend? Well, I mean, so in Canada, I would recommend the WestJet MasterCard, but things are changing not only with their loyalty program, but also with the point structure and stuff like that. So as to Canada, I'm gonna have to reassess that one, because RBC is also a heavy hitter when it comes to giving you points that you can use towards travel. And there's several others out there on the market. I know the American Express MasterCard, or sorry, the American Express card, it's expensive. I think it's like, I want to say $800 a year. But if you are a frequent flyer, with that particular American Express card, there's several different ones, as we know. Each bank has multiple layers, levels of different credit cards. But with the higher end American Express one, the expensive one, you do get lounge access, unlimited lounge access to airport lounges. So, like I said, if you're a frequent flyer for work, or because of family or whatever, that one definitely might be one to consider. And I do believe that they have the same version in the US, American Express, obviously being predominantly American. But my particular love of Hyatt properties, I love Hyatt as a city hotel. I love Hyatt as an all-inclusive hotel. I would be going with the Chase credit card in America, because you can get points that you can use towards free hotel accommodations. So, giddy up on that one. Imagine having like a week all-inclusive at one of the Hyatt Ziva or Zilara resorts, 5-star all-inclusive, free. I like free. Bojangles is saying the CIBC. Okay, so this is another Canadian one. CIBC is the bank. The Costco MasterCard is a good one. Huh. I don't think that I've looked into that. I know I did see that they're just going to start raising their rates. And in the US, I don't know if this is something that they're doing down there or not, but here they are going to start requiring you, when you go into Costco, you have to show your membership card, or you can show it on your phone as well. But you have to show your photo with it, because I guess there's too many people that are doing like family license type thing. It's like Netflix all over again, right? Where, one person in the family gets a Netflix account, and then they give it to their parents and their kids and their brothers and their sisters. And then all of a sudden you've got like 10 users on the same account. Well, same thing's happening with Costco. And I think Costco is very much worthwhile for the value that you get. Because the deals, like Costco deals, can't beat them. Okay, moving on. Don't take people's. Oh, I'm going to just save this one actually. Find out about tourist attractions. If you're going somewhere where there's like cathedrals, churches, that kind of thing, double check if you're allowed to take photos of them. Because I know we talked about this about a month ago, that there are some places in Eastern Europe and in the Middle East, where it is not appropriate to take photos of certain churches or mosques, that kind of thing. So definitely check that out before you start clicking away, or you might get into trouble. It might be a fine, it might just simply be frowned upon, or it could be worse, could be jail time. Difficult to say, but you definitely want to check it out beforehand. If you're going on a tour, obviously they're going to let you know. This isn't their first rodeo. I mean, they know people want to take pictures and share those memories. But yeah, if you're on your own traveling, do a little research first. Also, similarly, check if there's a dress code specifically for that country, or if you're visiting churches, what's considered appropriate. Like, I don't know in which church, maybe in Canada, this might be appropriate. I kind of doubt it, and I don't think I would wear something like this out of respect. I mean, I feel bad if I wear this top when I go to a golf course, because it's definitely not following golf dress code. But certainly in Europe, if you're going into a church or something like that, it is expected that you will have covered shoulders, sometimes covered knees. So shorts, no bueno. And definitely want to have your shoulders covered up. Make sure that it, even if it's an openy type top or off the shoulder top, not good. So definitely check on that. And yeah, and especially for the country, is there a headdress required? My colleague did a women's trip to Morocco, actually earlier this year, and they had an amazing time. But there were places that they went there. It was where it was expected that they would be wearing head covering scarves, and so they kind of used that as a shopping excuse. So they had a bit of fun with that one. So it was kind of cool. Some bathrooms, if you've been to London, you will know that some bathrooms in certain countries either have a fee to use them or, for lack of a better phrase or job description, a pee person, or also somebody who's selling you toilet paper because there ain't none in the stall. So be aware of that. In London, Harrods, oh man, probably 15 years ago, so it's probably gone up, was £1, which is roughly $2 Canadian, give or take, maybe $1.50 American, just to use the toilet, just to open the door. So yeah, just make sure that you're aware of that. In airports in smaller countries, or smaller airports in different countries in the Caribbean, sometimes we'll have a person in there that's the attendant, and they've got the paper towel, or the toilet paper. And then some of them, of course, will hand you a paper towel after you're finished washing your hands. And so you're expected to tip them. So, always have cash available and be ready for that. And then also know that some bathrooms in some tourist destinations can be somewhat decrepit. In Mazatlan, honestly, in any tourist destination, there's always places where the toilets are just disgusting. But in Mazatlan, we managed to luck out and find a bunch of them. Thumbs up, shout out to 𝖳તુΛyi𝖾. No, that would probably be an L. 𝖳તુΛyiL. Big bathroom, large stalls, clean. Thumbs up on that one. But some of the other places, the bars, not so much. And it got to the point where I literally was going to start doing a photo collage and a video just on the toilets. So, I mean, because look, seriously, when you can't close the door with you inside the stall, like, these are challenges, right? I don't know who created these things. We drove once from Namibia down to Cape Town, and we stopped along the way to use the toilets near a gas station. And we ended up, there's 3 of us women, and we used the men's toilet area because the women's was disaster. And there was no actual toilet, so it was kind of like squatting over a hole in the ground. That was an interesting experience. But yeah. Oh, and another fun one. I've got hold on a second. Oh yeah, true. So Arita is saying, choose a credit card that doesn't have a foreign transaction fee. Oh, Chase is not one of them. JetBlue is a good one. Okay, so from an American perspective, that's good to know. Usually the transaction fee is like 1.5%. So it's not huge, but it is nonetheless an extra cost. And so if you do happen to have a card that doesn't include that, doesn't charge that, then it's an extra savings and makes your travel dollar go farther. So all the better for that. So another important one, don't do this, is if you are traveling, like I said, we were in Namibia, we drove down to Cape Town. But while we were in Namibia, we went over to the coast. We went to actually where Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, did they get married there or just honeymoon? I don't know. It was like Swakopmund, Walvis Bay, that area. And along the way, we went by these beautiful sand dunes. And this was 15 years ago, maybe 20. And so you can actually body surf on those. So that's a lot of fun. But don't put the keys to the only transportation that you have in your loose pocket and then go body surfing down these hills. Because that happened. And my husband was surfing down behind his brother-in-law and came up with these keys and was like, oh, whose are these? And it turned out to be the person's who was driving the vehicle. So that was a fun fact. Also, no matter, okay, in North America, not a big deal to take pictures of people, but it's always polite to ask their permission first. In most countries in Europe, it is not, you're not legally able to take pictures of other people. I mean, I suppose you could ask and get their permission, but you can't just randomly, take a picture of a guy sitting on a park bench. So, you should always ask. When we were in Africa, I forget which country this was in, but we went by a bank and there was a guy standing outside it, a security guy, with an automated weapon because and I thought, okay, well, this is something I'd never seen before. So I asked if I could take a picture with him. And there you have it. So yeah, that was an interesting African experience for me. But definitely ask permission first. And Will's just saying he booked the Baja California after watching the videos with the Elite Club option. Oh, wow. Yeah, thank you for watching. And I'm glad you find that useful. Let us know what you think of the resort. I'm curious to hear. When are you going? Yeah, it was a great place to stay, that's for sure. Love the size of the rooms. Big, spacious. Yeah, so that's what I have for as far as travel do's and don'ts. So let me know if there's anything I've missed that you think is useful for people. But I mean, there's a million things we could go on and talk about this for forever. But yeah, some interesting experiences that I've had, and I'm sure you have had as well. So do we have any random topics today? Anybody have anything other than Will going to the Ryu in Cabo? Oh, Will says he's heading in, first week of November. Oh, wow. Perfect time of year to go because the weather, wherever you're from, unless you live in like Florida or California, even then, the weather's starting to get a little bit on the cooler side. So November is really a good time to go. It's still technically hurricane season, but I mean, I don't even think we've had any named storms on the West Coast yet. East Coast, Ernesto is the 5th named storm. So yeah, I think obviously you need to stay aware of the alerts and stuff like that, but chances are you should be fine. November typically, October is when it starts getting better weather. November is usually pretty good. August and September are typically the worst, and here we are midway through August. And we're only up to 5 named storms. And that was supposed to be, oh, here we are. So what did they predict? They predicted, I just covered it up again. 20 to 25 named storms. Well, if that's the case, September and October are just going to be back-to-back storms. As I've said before, I think my guess is that the prediction is wrong. And like I said, going back 10 years, they've never been right. So if they say it's going to be the worst year on record, chances are it'll be quite good. If they say it's going to be quite good, it's usually quite bad. So I don't know what goes into the process of deciding how many storms there's going to be and trying to predict the weather. I mean, I suppose you're trying to magic ball it a bit. So, I mean, I don't mean to judge them, quite so harshly, but if you're not right, you're not right. Will saying escaping New York City weather for a week. Yeah. Well, that'll be nice for sure. Yeah, definitely just watch out for the timeshare people, and particularly Cabo Airport. They call it the shark zone. So as soon as you land, until you get out into the fresh air, once you've picked up your bag, then you have to go through 2 doors or 2 zones of these timeshare people. They get in your face and they're like, like, "Hey, show me your papers," and, "What company are you with?" And they're not, like, asking nicely. They're demanding. And because you've just come from, the customs and immigration area, you're kinda like, "Oh, well, this person's dressed in a suit and they're kinda being official." Just ignore them. Just eyes down, keep on walking, ignore them. Otherwise, you could be delayed. You might miss your shuttle. They're going to offer you free stuff. And it might be anywhere from like a free stupid bottle of wine, which is $20, to a snorkeling thing, which might be worth $50, to several $100s. Now, that might be worth your while. But otherwise, generally speaking, I'd say just skip it, avoid them, because it's just not worth the hassle. Bojangles is saying, never done it before, but our February trip is when Super Bowl is happening. Okay, well, the question is this when you're going to Dreams Aventuras? I think that's where you said you're going next. Remind me. Because if it is, yeah, they will definitely be having a party. It's fair to say any Dreams or Secrets property will have a big thing, a big to-do. Ryu's always been, we were there, the one in Mazatlan, I guess, 2 years ago. Huge Super Bowl party. They had chicken wings and fries and burgers, hot dogs, nachos. So yeah, and they had it on the big screen in the theater is where they showed the game. They had the sound coming out. So it was great. And it was for Canadians, we had to watch all the American commercials. So that was kind of cool because the Super Bowl halftime commercials and stuff, well, not halftime, but the Super Bowl commercials, the company spends so much money on them. And if we don't get that feed here in Canada, if we're not sort of somehow bootlegging that feed, our commercials suck. So it's nice to see those. Oh, yes. Yeah, so definitely. We've been there for when they've had the Academy Awards on before, and they were giving out like chocolate Oscars, and they had a red carpet. They were doing photos and stuff like that. It was a real thing. So yeah, Dreams Resorts, any excuse for them to have a party, they're all over it. So definitely, yeah. Oh, my next question, best advice to walk through them, right? Yeah, absolutely. And I did a video about timeshares and how to avoid them, which I'm not going to be able to easily find that. Well, I can give it a try. But basically, timeshare. Yeah, there's, where do I do it here? Okay, copy this. All right, I'm going to put this in the comments. I can get back to you. There we go. Okay, so that's a link to the video about how to avoid timeshare presentations. And also in there, if you do decide to take advantage of one, I have got, which I heard, there's a fellow in Puerto Vallarta who was trying to get us to go to a presentation for, where do they always have the Bachelor in Paradise things? Is it Grand Villas? It's a place that's really a posh hotel, but it's not all inclusive. Forget the name of it. Anyways, they were offering like $300 or $400 American to go and attend a timeshare presentation. But the next day was a stat holiday. I think it was Christmas or something. And then we were flying home the day after that. So it just wasn't going to work. But my friend of ours was hugely tempted to attend. And the guy's like, because we're like, oh, well, and he says, oh, I know, you just go in and you tell them this and you do this. And so he totally told us how to get out of like a timeshare presentation, because they always drag it on. They say, yeah, you got to be here and we're going to do a 2-hour presentation. And some people go in with a clock, they sit it down, they start it, and they're like, okay, 2 hours, time's up. Oh, but sir, I'm not finished my presentation. You are, as far as I'm concerned. I fulfilled my part of the contract, which was attend a 2-hour presentation. 2 hours is up. Give me my prizes. So yeah, it's worth watching. But mostly just I walk through like I speak some language that 5 people know. And I just walk through like, oh, I don't know. And they're yelling at me, and I just keep on walking. Like, I didn't hear you. What? Are you talking to me? Or I don't know. Head down, keep moving. When you get outside, never will you ever find your shuttle company in the airport. The only time you actually have to speak to it feels like you're speaking to the timeshare people, but you're not, is outside of the airport at Cabo. You have to approach them with all the crowd of everybody. That's where you get the taxi, and it is a set amount. It's actually the same amount as a shuttle, so wasn't a huge deal. It wasn't a huge penalty that we paid, or a huge amount more that we paid by going the taxi route versus a prepaid shuttle. We just didn't necessarily have the comfort of knowing it was pre-booked. And also Huatulco, same thing. The taxi was like cheap as chips. I think we paid like $7 or something, but you did actually have to book that at the airport with airport personnel. Nonetheless, it was still outside of the airport. So yeah, just head outside. Once you're breathing fresh air, that's where you're going to find your shuttle people. And if you do decide you want to drink for the road, ask what the price is before you order, because was it Puerto Vallarta Airport? The beers were $15 each. Not total, for 2 each. So yeah, that was a rookie mistake that I made. Was it last year? So it seems like the older I get, the more mistakes I make. But whatever, you kind of roll with it. That's all part of travel. As long as you can roll with the punches. And like I always say, if you make a mistake, if you run into a problem, throw some money at it, find your own solution. But yeah, travel adventures, right? So that's all I have for you for this week. But thanks for tuning in, and we'll have more travel news. This has been really quiet lately. There hasn't been a whole lot going on, but you just never know. All of a sudden, things can change like that. We know that Air Canada is one of our major airlines here in Canada for inter-Canadian travel, as well as travel into the US. So if you are traveling into Canada, they're already passing out or wearing T-shirts or wearing stickers or something, the union, talking about whether or not they're going to strike. So I'm not sure when that's going to go into effect, but they're talking about it now. They're hyping up the union for it now. So they're going to be undergoing contract talks sometime in the near future. So just be aware of that, eyes and ears aware. Otherwise, yeah, we've got lots of stuff coming up, so stay tuned for that. So thanks again for tuning in today. If you haven't already hit that like button, please go ahead and do so. Thanks for all your comments, and we'll definitely go and check out that video to see how to avoid timeshares, and also if you attend one, how to get out of it. And thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll be back here again next Wednesday, and lots more fun travel talks. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.